Only 3 days after the wedding, my new son-in-law showed up at my door with a notary, slammed a stack of fake documents on the table, and coldly declared, "Old man, this house has already been sold. From now on, you're moving into a nursing home." In that moment, he thought he had won. But what he didn't know, right there in the living room, every word, every forged signature of his was already caught in the trap that the police and I had set up. Before I continue, please hit the subscribe button and tell me where you're listening from in the comments. I truly appreciate your support. Now, allow me to go on. 3 days, just 3 days after the wedding, and I was already facing the nightmare no father ever wants to live through. That afternoon, I was in my living room sipping a cup of herbal tea when the doorbell rang. I wasn't prepared for the sight. My newly married son-in-law, Derek Coleman, in a sharp suit, standing next to a stranger with a leather briefcase. In his hand was a thick folder, clipped neatly with a metal fastener. Derek smiled with exaggerated politeness, the kind people use when they're about to sell you something they know is full of tricks. "Dad Walter," he said smoothly, "everything is done. This is Notary Ryan Foster. We've completed the sale of this house. Tomorrow, you'll move into a very comfortable senior facility. Your daughter won't have to worry anymore. Everything has been taken care of. I heard every word, but in my mind, there was only the howl of cold wind. This house, the house I had built with my own hands, where I carried Emily, my daughter, when she took her first steps, where Linda, my late wife, and I planted roses by the porch. And now, after a wedding celebration I had paid for almost entirely, my son-in-law dared to declare, sold. Derek's lips curled, his eyes flashing with triumph, as if he had just made a brilliant chess move that left the old man speechless. The notary even pulled out his seal, ready to stamp each page as if to prove an irreversible truth. I took a slow breath and set down my cup of tea. My heart throbbed with pain, but my face remained calm. The physics teacher in me still lived on. When faced with a sudden problem, first observe calmly, then strike precisely. I smiled faintly, just enough to make Derek hesitate. "Well," I said slowly, "if everything is as settled as you claim, then let's stop by the police station first. I'm sure they'll be very interested in the documents I sent them about you." At that moment, Derek's smile froze. His eyes blinked rapidly, the confidence draining from his smug face. The notary beside him shifted nervously, glancing around as if he hadn't been warned that this old man was not so easy to manipulate. I didn't need to shout, didn't need to slam the table. With just one sentence, the game turned. I saw the unease flicker in Derek's eyes, the man who thought he held all control, and I realized, from this moment, the real battle had begun. 3 days before Derek showed up with a notary at my door, I'd been sitting in a brightly lit hall, clapping and smiling as I watched my daughter walk down the aisle. Emily Harris, the only pride left to me after my wife passed, looked radiant in a white gown flowing to the floor. I had spent nearly $18,000 renting a luxury hotel in downtown Portland, hiring a string quartet to play canon in D, and decorating the hall with thousands of fresh flowers, all for one perfect day for my daughter. Champagne glasses clinked, candlelight flickered, and laughter filled the air. In that moment, I truly believed I was witnessing a new beginning for Emily, a happy family after years of her living alone with me in our old house. Yet only hours after the party ended, when we sat together in a quiet corner for a late dinner, Derek Coleman, my daughter's brand new husband, leaned toward me. The dim light of the lamp glimmered through his red wine. "Walter," he began, voice sweet as honey, "you know, we need a stable place to start our life. Your house. It's far too big for one man. Honestly, it would be the perfect home for a young family." My heart sank. The wedding cake, still sweet on my tongue, suddenly turned bitter. I set down my fork, my hand trembling. That house wasn't just brick and wood. It was where I carried Emily home from the hospital, where my wife Linda smiled on the steps the day of our own wedding. "That is my home, Derek," I answered slowly, keeping my voice steady. Emily sat between us, eyes wide with alarm, my little girl, now someone's wife, her wedding ring glittering under the candlelight. "Dad, please don't argue. This is a happy day." But Derek didn't back down. He smiled, his eyes gleaming with the arrogance that chilled me. "Think about it," he pressed. "You're nearly 70. Living alone in such a big house isn't practical. We're struggling with rent and Emily's teacher's salary. If you moved somewhere smaller, we'd care for it like your own children would." Every word cut like a blade. I looked down at the white tablecloth, at the wilted flower petals scattered across it, like a quiet omen for this marriage. I clenched the table to hold back my anger. That house is blood and sweat from Linda and me. It's not just property, it's memories, it's family. And I'm still clear-headed enough to decide where I live. In that moment, Derek's smile flickered, but only for a heartbeat. Then he raised his glass again as if nothing had happened, leaving me with a colder wound than the March wind. That night, after the wedding ended, I returned to my familiar house in the Portland suburbs. The streetlight shone through my study window onto the old leather notebook Linda had given me before she passed. "Walter, you need a place to write down important thoughts," she had said. I opened it, hand trembling as I wrote the first line, March 15th, 2025. "Derek Coleman shows suspicious behavior. For months while dating Emily, Derek had asked questions I thought harmless at the time. Are your property taxes high? Do you plan to sell the house and move somewhere smaller? If something happens, does Emily inherit right away?" I had assumed he simply wanted to know more about his future wife's family. But now, sitting alone in the dark, those questions flashed like red warning lights. I flipped through old pages and added every detail my memory recalled. Derek had never mentioned a clear job, only vague claims of independent business consulting. I had never seen him enter a real office or talk to any clients. Yet he wore a watch worth nearly $5,000 and gave Emily a diamond ring of at least 2 carats. Where did that money come from? I sat for hours in silence, hearing only the ticking clock and the wind outside. The house was quiet, but my heart was a storm. I thought of Linda. She had once warned me. People reveal their true nature when they think no one is watching. Don't just hear what they say, watch what they do. Her words echoed in my mind, urging me to stay sharp. I wrote down, "Derek mentioned I am nearly 70, said the house is too big, called it property instead of home." Every word I put on paper was like a knife carving deeper into the harsh truth. My son-in-law never saw this house as family, only as merchandise. I closed the notebook and leaned back in my chair. My heart beat slow but heavy. All my life, I believed that giving Emily a home was the only thing left I could do after losing Linda. And now, the very man she called her husband wanted to turn it into profit. The pen still lay on the desk. I opened the notebook again and wrote one more line. Tomorrow, I will start uncovering the truth. Derek may think I am just a weak old man, but this old man taught physics for 40 years, and I know how to observe, analyze, and record. He would never imagine that this notebook itself would become the weapon against him. I closed it, slid it into the drawer, and locked it with a tiny key. Outside, the night wind still blew, cold as steel, but inside me a fire was rising. Suspicion had become resolve. I knew what I had to do next. That Thursday afternoon, after driving home from the hardware store, I saw Frank Miller, my neighbor 2 houses down, standing in his yard, his eyes fixed on my place. Frank had been a police officer, retired for 10 years, but his stance and sharp gaze remained the same. When he saw me pull in, he walked quickly over, his face grave. "Walter, I need to tell you something," he began, lowering his voice as if afraid someone might overhear. I set my bags on the hood, my heart racing with the instinct that something was wrong. "What is it, Frank?" Yesterday, when you were out, Derek came with a stranger. The man wore a suit, carried a leather briefcase, and looked exactly like a real estate guy. They walked around your house for nearly an hour, measuring walls, taking photos inside and out. It was clearly an appraisal. My blood turned cold. You're certain? Frank nodded firmly, eyes tense. I was a cop, I know. The guy even used a foundation gauge and took detailed notes. Derek led him inside. They went through every room, even the backyard. I could see it all from my place. If you didn't know about this, Walter, you're in serious trouble. I clenched my fists, forcing my voice to stay calm. Thank you, Frank. I owe you one. When I stepped inside, my hands shook so badly I dropped my keys. I rushed upstairs to my study and switched on the computer. The screen lit up, and within a few clicks, the browsing history appeared. The words made my chest tighten. Property transfer, Oregon elderly, quick house sale companies, forged notary seals, power of attorney elderly homeowners. Scrolling down, I saw more. Oregon real estate transfer law versus Arizona versus Colorado. County recorder requirements, Multnomah. Elder deed restrictions, Oregon. Each phrase landed like a blow to the chest. Derek wasn't just fantasizing about the house. He was plotting, step by step. He was comparing laws across states, researching Oregon's exact procedures to find loopholes. He had brought an appraiser, then used my computer to learn how to legitimize forged documents. This was no longer a vague suspicion. This was organized crime. I collapsed into my chair, blood pounding in my ears. Derek wasn't just greedy. He operated like a predator, combing through laws to make sure his strike was flawless. My hand shook as I opened the leather notebook. I wrote, March 17th. Frank confirmed Derek brought an appraiser. Computer history shows research into illegal transfers, comparing Oregon, Arizona, and Colorado law. Scheme in progress. Closing the notebook, I sat in silence, torn between pain and fury. I thought of Linda. She had said, people may take your money, but never let them take your home. She was right. I could not let Derek steal this house. This was my legacy, the last place where our family memories lived. As darkness spread, I swore to myself, if Derek thought I would be an easy victim, he had chosen the wrong man. The next morning, I could not sleep. The search terms from last night haunted me, hammering in my head. I knew I could not wait. The only way forward was the law. I grabbed my phone and dialed Karen Doyle, the attorney who had handled Linda's estate 3 years ago. Her voice came firm as ever. Walter, from the sound of your voice, this is serious. Better we meet face to face. Come to my office right away. Less than an hour later, I was in her small conference room, morning light spilling through the glass window onto her worn leather files. I told her everything. Derek's hints at the wedding dinner, Frank's report about the appraiser, and finally, the terrifying search history on my computer. Karen took notes in silence, her eyes growing colder by the minute. When I finished, she set down her pen. Walter, she said slowly, you're not imagining this. Derek Coleman is not an ordinary man. I've seen this name before. My blood froze. What do you mean? Karen pulled out a thick file from her drawer. In the past 2 years, we've helped 3 families in California, Arizona, and Colorado. All the same pattern: widowed father over 60, grown daughter struggling financially. And in every case, the man she married called himself a business consultant. Different names, but the photos and the trail matched. It was Derek. My head roared like a swarm of bees. He is a predator, Karen continued, her voice like a knife. The routine is the same. Rush into marriage, win the daughter's trust, then start pressing about property, the big house, the aging father. Next, he brings in a dirty notary, forges power of attorney papers, and fakes signatures. By the time it's done, the house is in someone else's name, and the father is out on the street labeled as incompetent. I shook my head, my throat closing. Dear God! Karen met my eyes sharper than ever. Walter, you are the next target, and Derek is accelerating. A heavy stone seemed to crush my chest, but what hurt more was Emily. My only daughter had married him, trusted him, and now she might take his side if he claimed I was losing my mind. That came true sooner than I feared. That evening, as I tried to steady myself and review my notes, the phone rang close to 9 o'clock. Emily's name appeared on the screen, filling me with both hope and dread. "Dad," her voice trembled but carried a firm edge. "I just talked to Derek. I think you misunderstood." I held my breath. Misunderstood what, Emily? I heard him talk about the house with my own ears, right there at the wedding dinner. "It's not like that, Dad." Emily cut me off quickly. "Derek's only worried about your health. He's afraid of you living alone in that big house. What if something happens? You're already 69. My voice hardened. Worried? What kind of worry brings an appraiser to my house when I'm not home? Emily was silent for a few seconds, then exhaled. He already explained. That was just a friend in real estate who conveniently stopped by to take a look. There's nothing shady about it. You're reading too much into everything. My blood boiled, but my heart felt heavy. Did you hear him say it to me yourself? Your house is too big for an old man. Is that concern, Emily? Dad, Emily's voice rose, almost choking. I know you love me, but you're letting prejudice blind you. Derek loves me. He's given me happiness I thought I'd never have again, and all you can think is that he's greedy. I went still, my trembling hand gripping the phone. Dad? Emily lowered her voice, but her next words cut like an icy blade. Maybe you're just too suspicious. Old age. Memory isn't as sharp as before. Please don't make yourself suffer like this anymore. The screen went dark. The room fell into silence. I sat motionless, hearing my heart pound in pain. For the first time in my life, my own daughter stood with an outsider while I was pushed aside like a senile old man. That night, I opened the leather notebook again and wrote the last line. March 18th. Confirmed. Derek was the perpetrator in multiple states. My daughter has begun to doubt my lucidity. The scheme is closing in. It feels like everything is collapsing. I closed the notebook and set it before Linda's photo. Her gentle smile glowed in the frame while I sat there, head in my hands, feeling as if I had lost the last trust of the only family I had left. That night, the bottom of the abyss opened beneath my feet. After that call, I sat for hours in my study, my mind spinning. The feeling of being doubted by my own daughter hurt worse than Derek's vicious blows. But that pain woke something in me. If I collapsed, I would lose everything, my house, my dignity, and the last thread of trust with Emily. I could not let that happen. I took a deep breath and opened the safe in my room. Inside were my most important papers, the house title, the will updated after Linda passed, life insurance and savings accounts. I laid everything on the desk, scanned each page, and sent copies to Attorney Karen via encrypted email. Not just one copy, I also saved them to an external drive and sent another set to the bank where I've kept accounts for many years. There must be at least 3 backups, I muttered, as if running a physics experiment with variables that could not be wrong. Next, I called the bank. I want fraud alerts on all accounts, I said firmly. No transaction is allowed without direct confirmation from me with a new password. I changed all passwords, both email and credit cards, and recorded them in the password book hidden in the safe. Not stopping there, I contacted the insurance company and requested an added clause for protection against forged signatures. The call center agent sounded surprised, but when I said, "My family is in danger," she processed it immediately. I did not sleep that night. I sat in my room, the desk lamp shining over pages spread across the table. I reviewed each document like an engineer inspecting blueprints. Derek wanted to steal this house. He would have to get through a maze of files, evidence, and alerts I'd just built. At times, I paused, looking at Linda's framed photo on the desk. In the warm light, her kind smile seemed to encourage me. You did the right thing. Don't let him take our home. Before dawn, I added a line to my journal. March 19th. Backed up all documents, changed PINs, and set fraud alerts. Defensive steps are being built. Derek does not know that the old man he underestimates can build a system as tight as a fortress. I closed the notebook and exhaled in relief. For the first time in days, I felt I was not only defending, I had begun to truly counterattack. The next morning, as Portland sunlight slipped through the blinds, I sat at my desk with a leather notebook and laptop. Karen's words from yesterday kept echoing. He did this in California, Arizona, and Colorado. If Derek were truly a professional predator, there would be tracks, and I had to find them. I started with the name Karen suggested, Maria Alvarez, Phoenix, Arizona. With just a few clicks on social media, I found her page, a woman in her 70s, silver hair, a gentle face. Her old photos were full of warm moments in a spacious ranch house, blooming gardens, family gatherings with children and grandchildren. But the recent photos were different. A cramped apartment with dim light, status updates lamenting rising rent. I stared at the contrast, my heart sinking. The house she once proudly owned had vanished, replaced by a constricted life away from family. No one needed to tell me what had happened. I followed another lead, David Huang, Denver, Colorado. A local article from a year ago read, 72-year-old man hospitalized after a heart attack, stemming from a family property dispute. The article was vague, but in a few neighbor comments, I saw the familiar clue. The newlywed son-in-law forced him to sign to sell the house. A chill ran down my spine. I knew I had found a second victim. I didn't stop. On a legal forum, an anonymous user wrote, "Has anyone had a son-in-law rush a wedding and then force a house transfer?" I heard there was a similar case in California. The pieces began to fit. I recorded everything in my notebook. Maria Alvarez, Los Ranch house, now renting an apartment. David Huang nearly died from stress after being forced to sign. California case, name unknown, but the pattern is identical. The more I wrote, the angrier I became. Derek wasn't only targeting me, he had destroyed multiple families, pushing mothers and fathers into ruin, and my Emily was shielding him, unknowingly helping his fraud continue. To be sure, I called Karen. I found the victims. I need to contact them. Karen was silent for a few seconds, then said, "Walter, I'll arrange it. But prepare yourself. What they went through may be more painful than you imagine." In the afternoon, I got the first call. Maria's voice trembled on the line. "You're right. Derek Coleman ruined my life. He said he just wanted to help me, to care for my safety." I believed him, signed a few documents, and one morning I woke up to find the home of 40 years was gone. My daughter took his side, saying I was confused. We don't even see each other. Now I gripped the phone, my throat tight. She went on, voice breaking. "He's very professional. He had his own notary. All the papers looked legitimate, and the signatures were identical. I went to the police, but they said I signed voluntarily. No way out. When the call ended, I sat frozen. The room felt 10 degrees colder. I thought of Emily and what she had said last night. Maybe you're too suspicious. I knew that if I didn't act fast, I would become the next Maria, denied by my daughter, helpless before the law. I opened the notebook and wrote, March 20th, confirmed. Derek is a repeat offender. At least 3 victims in 3 states. Same script every time. Quick marriage, win trust, 4 signatures, daughter defends husband, father labeled senile. If I don't act, I will be next. I set down the pen, my chest surging with a new feeling. It was no longer just fear. It was the will to expose him. Not only for me, but for people like Maria and David, those who lost everything to a predator wearing the mask of a gentle son-in-law. On Sunday morning, I decided to tidy the living room. Maybe I wanted a little peace in my own home, or maybe instinct told me to check every corner. When I pulled the coffee table forward to vacuum behind it, the morning light flashed off something tiny, glinting like a lens. I froze, heart hammering. It was a micro camera, no bigger than a coin, neatly tucked behind the ceramic vase Linda had bought in Italy. I bent down and examined it carefully. This was no cheap toy. It was a professional device with a micro SD slot and infrared for night recording. My hands trembled as I removed it, fear and fury pounding in my chest. Derek had installed a camera in this very house, the place I had treated as a sanctuary of memories. I inserted the memory card into my computer. The screen showed 47 video files, all dated from the day Derek moved in after the wedding. I opened the first file. There I was, talking on the phone with the insurance company, every word recorded. The next file, me reviewing documents in the living room. He had been watching my every move, every private conversation, but when I reached file number 38, I froze. On screen was Derek himself, standing in my living room while I was out, speaking on the phone with another man. The old man trusts me completely, Derek laughed smugly. By the end of this month, the house will be in my name. The papers are almost done. Ryan Foster, you're sure the notary seal won't get exposed? The other voice replied, Relax. I've done this in several states, and the fake seal passes inspection without issue. Derek burst out laughing. Too easy. He even spent over $10,000 on the wedding, which makes me look more legitimate. His daughter is crazy about me. This is a jackpot. My blood boiled as I slammed pause, my eyes blurring with rage. All the doubts I had carried were now undeniable proof. He wasn't just scheming to steal the house. He had an accomplice forging documents. Worst of all, he was using Emily as a shield, as a tool. I clicked through more videos, each showing Derek boasting about his new job. Mentioning victims in Arizona and Colorado, his voice dripped with arrogance. Those old men are all the same, stubborn, thinking they're smart. But once the daughter sides with me, the father looks senile. Easy as flipping the switch, I copied all the data into 3 sets. 1 USB locked in my safe, 1 sent to Karen, and 1 uploaded to a secure cloud. The camera Derek planted to control me had become the golden evidence to expose him. I wrote in my journal, March 21st, found a hidden camera. Video evidence of Derek admitting to a plan to steal the house, naming accomplice Ryan Foster. This is the key. The time to strike back has come. Leaning back, I closed my eyes and exhaled. Amid the fury and relief, I knew I now held the strongest weapon of all. My enemy's own confession, recorded inside the very house he wanted to steal. The next morning, I brought the USB with the videos to Karen Doyle's office. When Derek appeared on screen bragging, "By the end of this month, the house will be in my name," Karen's face darkened. She froze the video at the moment he mentioned Ryan Foster and sighed, "Walter, this is exactly what we needed. Now it's not just a family dispute. It's organized fraud across state lines." She picked up her desk phone and called a name I had never heard. Chief Inspector Mark Jensen of the Portland Police Financial Crimes Unit. Within hours, I was in a secure conference room on the 3rd floor of the precinct, facing Jensen, a sharp-eyed man in his 50s. "Mr. Weaver," Jensen began, "we've been tracking a suspect matching Derek Coleman's profile for over a year, but we never had solid evidence. What you've brought us today could be the nail in his coffin." I placed the USB, my journals, and copies of all critical documents on the table. Jensen reviewed the videos, taking notes. When Derek sneered on camera, saying, "As long as the daughter takes my side, the old man looks senile," Jensen clenched his jaw and slammed his pen on the desk. "He's reckless, and he picked the wrong victim." My voice trembled. "Can you arrest him right now?" Jensen shook his head. "We need him to make the move so we can secure a conviction. The video is strong, but to prosecute for real estate fraud, we must show him presenting forged documents, demanding your signature, or claiming the house is already sold. Only then will a jury have no doubt." I swallowed hard. pain shooting through my chest. So, I have to play the bait? Karen put a hand on my shoulder, her eyes resolute. Walter, I know it's hard, but this is the only way to stop him. If you agree, the police will protect you. They'll set the trap right in your home. You will never be alone. Jensen nodded and handed me a small, key fob-like device. Panic button. Press it and we'll be inside in 30 seconds. We'll also plant hidden cameras in your living room. You just need to make him believe you're weak, ready to sign. Let him expose himself. I held the device, a chill running down my spine. Inside me wrestled fear, pretending to surrender, facing the man who betrayed my daughter, against determination, to protect my home, my dignity, and to stop him from destroying more families. That night, sitting in the living room, I looked around the familiar space. The pine walls still smelled of resin, and Linda's chair still sat in its corner. Soon this room would become the stage of a life-or-death play where I would act the frail old man to draw Derek into the trap. I wrote in my journal, March 22nd, agreed to cooperate with the police. The sting will happen here. I must pretend to collapse so he reveals himself. Fear and hope mingle. If we succeed, not only will I be saved, but many others will be freed from his hands. Looking at Linda's photo, I whispered, "Give me strength." The final battle is near. The next morning, at 8 sharp, 3 unmarked cars pulled up outside. Neighbors probably thought it was repairmen, but I knew it was Jensen's tech team. They carried black cases filled with disguised cameras, micro mics, and transmitters. "Mr. Weaver, we'll finish in 3 hours. When done, your living room will be a recording station strong enough to hold in any court," Jensen said firmly. I watched them work. A camera went into the air vent. Another was hidden in a potted plant by the window, and microphones were under Linda's wooden table. Looking around, I felt both secure and unsettled. My home of memories was becoming a silent battlefield. After testing connections, Jensen handed me a tiny earpiece and the panic button for my shirt pocket. "We'll hear every word, see every move. Just stay in character. Make Derek believe you're frail, ready to sign. When you feel threatened or want us to move, press this." Simple. That afternoon, a young officer role-played Derek so I could rehearse. He laid fake papers before me, mimicking Derek's slick, condescending tone. "Walter, sign here." "You know this is the smartest choice," I tried responding in a shaky, confused voice. Let me see. I don't remember agreeing to sell the house." In my ear, Jensen's voice guided me. "Perfect. Keep that tone. Doubtful, but not resistant too soon. The more he talks, the stronger our case." We rehearsed 3 times. Each time my pulse raced. Sweat dampened my palms. But each time I grew more confident in the role. When night fell, I sat alone in the living room, lamplight shining over Linda's wooden table. On it lay a pen and a stack of blank papers, the perfect bait for Derek. Everything was ready. I opened my journal and wrote, March 23rd. The police have set the trap. My house is now like an underground fortress. I must become a frail old man so Derek will reveal his entire scheme. I am afraid, but a strange feeling is rising inside me. For the first time, I am not just defending. I am holding the initiative. I closed the journal and looked out the window where the streetlight shone on the quiet street. I knew that in only a few days Derek would show up with forged papers, and I would sit here, pretending to collapse, while an entire police team surrounded the house. I whispered to myself, "All right, Derek. If you think I'm easy prey, then step into the trap you dug yourself." That evening there was a knock at the door. I opened it to see Derek standing there, no papers in hand, just a face full of concern tinged with irritation. "Walter," he began, lowering his voice as if to win me over, "you made Emily very upset. She cried all last night. She only wants what's best for you. We both want you to be safe and comfortable, not worrying about a big house anymore. You deserve peaceful final years. My chest tightened. For a moment, memories rushed back. Emily as a child, clutching my hand on her first day of kindergarten, her tearful hug on graduation day. Dad, with you, I'm not afraid of anything. My heart ached. Seeing my eyes soften, Derek pushed harder. You don't want Emily to have to choose between her husband and her father, right? You sign out of love. Sign and you'll give Emily peace. We'll take care of you so you won't struggle. Isn't that what family is? I sat in silence, keeping a thoughtful face as if I were being persuaded. But in my head, a blaze roared. You think I've fallen? I hear everything. I remember everything. And soon you'll be finished by your own sweet talk, son. I nodded slightly, feigning softness. Derek smiled at once, self-satisfaction flashing in his eyes. Good, Walter. Tomorrow Ryan Foster will bring the papers. We'll finalize everything. Emily will be happy, and you'll have an easy life. Everybody wins. He squeezed my shoulder lightly, then left. I sat motionless in the dark, a swell of pain and fury rising inside me. I wrote in the journal, March 23rd evening. Derek is using Emily as a shield. He thinks I'm backing down, but in truth, I'm ready for him to walk into the trap. On Thursday afternoon, Portland's signature gray sky seemed to press down on every roof. From the window, I saw Derek's familiar silver sedan roll to a stop at the gate. This time, he wasn't alone. The man with him, smart suit, glossy black briefcase, had to be Ryan Foster, the dirty notary I'd heard on the recordings. The doorbell rang. I took a deep breath and arranged my face to look tired. When I opened the door, Derek wore that sweet smile with a hint of smugness. Walter, we're here today to put this matter to rest, for your sake and Emily's. I kept to the role and forced a wan smile. Oh, Derek? And this is? This is Ryan Foster, a notary, he answered confidently. Ryan Foster inclined his head with fake courtesy. A pleasure, mister. Weaver. We've prepared all the paperwork so you can move to more suitable accommodations. This is the best decision for you. In my earpiece, Jensen's voice whispered, Steady, Walter. Let them talk. They sat at the coffee table. Ryan Foster pulled out a stack of documents, a raised red seal standing out. Derek leaned in and lowered his voice as if confiding something intimate. Walter, sign, not just for peace, but for Emily. She wants her father comfortable, no longer burdened by the weight of this big house. We only want you to be safe and well cared for. After all, we're family. Isn't that what any father wants? For his children to look after him? I stayed quiet, my face pensive, as if moved by the family love he was painting. For a moment, a memory flashed. Years ago, Emily gripping my hand at her graduation, whispering, Dad, I'm proud to have you. And here he was, twisting family into a shield to force me to yield. That alone made my blood boil. I kept my grave expression so he'd think I was wavering, but only one blazing thought filled my mind. You're about to be finished by your father-in-law, son. Ryan Foster slid the stack toward me. Just sign here. All procedures are lawful. Everything will be fine. I took the pen, feigning a trembling hand. I don't remember agreeing to this. Derek jumped in at once, voice steamrolling. You told me you did, remember? Old folks forget. But it's all right. Sign so Emily can be at ease. You don't want to hurt her anymore. In my ear, Jensen murmured, Excellent, Walter. Keep going. I bent over as if ready to sign, letting the tip of the pen touch the page. Derek leaned in, his smug smile widening. Ryan Foster nodded, ready with the seal. The air was taut as a wire. At that exact moment, I stopped the pen, looked up, and said slowly but clearly, How about, we stop by the police station first. I'm sure they'll be very interested in what I sent them about you, Derek. The room froze. Derek's face went chalk white. Ryan Foster blinked rapidly, sweat breaking out. What? Derek stammered, his voice shaking. What nonsense is this? This is a family matter. No police involved. As he jerked to his feet, the front door burst open. Inspector Jensen and 3 officers swept in with guns drawn. Derek Coleman, Ryan Foster, you are under arrest for real estate fraud, document forgery, and conspiracy to commit federal fraud. I remained seated, my hand on the stack of fake papers, watching Derek go rigid where he stood. For the first time, his smug smile vanished completely. The thud of police boots filled the living room. Derek backed away a few steps, his face drained of all color. Ryan Foster tried to stay composed, but his hands shook and his briefcase nearly slipped. Jensen strode forward, voice like ice. Derek Coleman, Ryan Foster, you are under arrest for property fraud, forged notarization, and federal conspiracy. Everything has been recorded on video and audio. No, you're mistaken, Derek screamed, panic-stricken. This is just family business. The old man is senile. We only want to take care of him. I looked him straight in the eye without standing. Family business? Family business that needs fake papers, a fake notary, and a hidden camera in my house. Every word landed like a hammer on his coffin. Ryan Foster broke, lifting his hands. I only did what Derek asked. I'm willing to cooperate. I have information on other cases. Jensen signaled 2 officers to cuff them both. Derek thrashed and shouted, Emily! Emily will take my side. No one will believe a shaky old man like you. Just as he said it, I heard noise outside. I turned toward the window. Neighbors had gathered, crowding the sidewalk. Frank, my next-door friend, stood at the front with arms crossed, eyes blazing. We believe you, Walter. The whole block has suspected this guy for a long time. Hearing that, Derek seemed to melt. Everything he had relied on, Emily's trust, my silence, dissolved into thin air. He lowered his head, his shoulders shuddering in the cold bite of the cuffs. Walter Weaver! Jensen turned back, his voice warm for the first time since entering my house. Thanks to your resilience, we now have all the evidence. You didn't just save yourself. You saved many other families, too. I nodded slowly. The anger still simmered, but a new peace seeped into me. I looked at the stack of forged papers still on the table, then up at Linda's photo on the shelf. My love, I protected our home. No one can steal our memories. Outside, police lights painted the street blue and red. Neighbors whispered, some filming with their phones. Derek, the man who once walked into my home with a smug grin, now stood with his head bowed, led away like a cowardly criminal. Ryan Foster mumbled pleas for leniency, but no one listened. I stayed seated, my hand resting on the familiar wooden table. For the first time in weeks, my house felt truly safe. No false smiles, no prying eyes, only me, the warm wooden walls, and the memories of real family. One thought echoed in my mind, bringing a faint smile. At last, justice was done, and that son-in-law chose the wrong opponent. 8 weeks later, a crisp spring morning carried tension over the Multnomah County Courthouse. I climbed the granite steps, my old leather briefcase in hand, filled with the files that had exposed Derek. Sunlight slanted across the white columns. Birds sang faintly, but my heart pounded like a drum. Ahead, Inspector Jensen was waiting. He shook my hand firmly. Today's the end, Walter. You did what so many others couldn't. I nodded, feeling a weight lift slightly from my shoulders. Inside, Derek sat at the defendant's table, his orange prison jumpsuit making him a shadow of the smug man who once smiled in my home. His defense attorney looked tense. Ryan Foster sat nearby, having pled guilty and agreed to cooperate. But my eyes sought the gallery. There sat Emily, her hair loose, her face gaunt from weeks of turmoil. When our eyes met, she gave a small nod, as if to say, Dad, I've woken up. Jensen leaned close and whispered, She filed for divorce right after Derek's arrest. She's here to support you. My heart tightened, but also warmed. Judge Clark's gavel struck, and the trial began. The prosecutor spoke clearly. Defendant Derek Coleman used sham marriages to infiltrate families, manipulate their children, and steal assets from elderly parents. At least 12 victims across 5 states, total losses exceeding $2 million. Today, thanks to Walter Weaver's evidence, we can prove the full extent of his crimes. The defense attorney tried desperately. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my client may have made mistakes, but he wasn't the mastermind. He was caught up in circumstances. I almost laughed. Caught up in circumstances? The recordings, the videos from the camera he planted in my home were about to play, and then the prosecutor pressed a button. The courtroom fell silent as Derek's voice filled the speakers. The old man trusts me completely. By the end of this month, the house will be in my name, Derek's face, drained of color, with nowhere to hide. When Ryan Foster's voice followed, "This fake seal will pass any inspection," the courtroom buzzed. "Mr. Walter Weaver, please take the stand." I rose, step by step, and faced the jury. I recounted the night Derek brought forged papers, how he kept using Emily as a shield to manipulate me. I ended with, "Family is never a weapon for deceit." But to Derek, it was just a tool. That's why I'm here today, to say no to that betrayal. The defense attorney tried to undermine me. "Mr. Weaver, at 69, your memory could—" I lifted my head and cut him off firmly. "My memory is clear enough to tell love from fraud, and it was that memory that recorded every piece of evidence against him." Murmurs spread, heads nodding. After 2 days of testimony, the jury needed only 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. When Judge Clark read the sentence, 12 years in prison and full restitution of stolen funds, Derek slumped, his eyes hollow. Ryan Foster received 5 years for cooperating. As police led Derek out, he turned back, eyes burning with rage and helplessness. I said nothing, just met his gaze with calm, like closing a complex equation. Emily rushed forward, throwing her arms around me. "Dad, I'm sorry." I was blind. I placed a hand on her shoulder, voice thick. "You only erred by trusting the wrong man? But you stood up in time, and I've never stopped being your strength." Her tears fell, but her smile returned. Outside, Jensen shook my hand once more. "Walter, you didn't just protect your home. You opened the eyes of other families, and of the justice system. I lifted my face to the spring sun, warm and bright. A dark chapter had closed. As the trial ended, I stepped down the courthouse stairs and breathed deeply. May sunlight filled the square, so different from the shadows that had haunted my life for weeks. Beside me, Emily held my hand tightly, as if to make up for the days she unknowingly shielded Derek. We returned to the wooden house on the quiet Portland street. The door opened, and the familiar pine scent wrapped around me like an embrace. The house was still the same, Linda's chair in the corner, the family photo on the wall, but now the shadow of betrayal was gone. That evening, Emily cooked the first meal in weeks. The sound of chopping, the aroma of chicken soup, it all brought back memories of Linda and family dinners. I watched my daughter. Her eyes were no longer blinded, but wiser, shining with strength forged from pain. "Dad, I won't leave this place again," she said softly. "I'll stay, take care of you. Not from guilt, but because this is my home too." I nodded. She needed time to forgive herself, as I needed time to heal. But we had found each other again. Weeks later, Inspector Jensen visited with a folder. "Walter," he said, "your story has inspired many seniors. We want you to join a program against elder fraud. Share your experience. Help others recognize the signs." I was silent for a moment, then nodded. My whole life I was an engineer, solving problems. Maybe this was the final problem to solve, not just for me, but for the community. One evening I wrote my story from the day Derek stepped into my house with a fake smile to the moment he was cuffed before my neighbors. I wrote not to relive the pain, but to affirm family must never be twisted into a tool for fraud. Outside, the porch light glowed over the yard. Emily brought out 2 cups of hot tea, setting one beside me. "Dad," she smiled gently, "Mom would be so proud of you." I squeezed her hand, warmth flooding me. That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully in my own house. No fear of deceit, no false smile, only the safety of a home protected by wisdom, courage, and real love. At 69, I knew life didn't hold many long years ahead, but I also knew every day left would be worth living, inside the home I built, with the daughter I reclaimed, and with the belief that justice truly belongs to those who refuse to bow. Derek walked in with a smug smile and left in handcuffs, and I kept my house, my dignity, and my bond with my daughter. This story reminds me, sometimes the most precious thing we protect is not property, but truth and trust. If you found this story worth reflecting on, please like, subscribe, and share this video with friends. Leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. I always want to hear your voice. And if you want to hear another story even more shocking than this, click the video now showing on your screen. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next story.